Thanks a lot for staying with us. And if you just joined in, welcome to the second half of TVC Breakfast this Thursday. So last week, many residents of Maiduguri, Borno State were thrown into a state of panic and confusion as an overflow of water from the Alau Dam left many homeless and displaced. The Nigeria Police Command in Borno State rolled out a series of post-flood guidelines aimed at managing the aftermath of the floods in Maiduguri, the state capital, while the Federal Ministry of Environment deployed a team of experts to help mitigate the effects of the flooding that occurred there. Now, various support from the governments, the UN, and partners are providing hot meals, water purification, tablets, hygiene kits, as well as emergency health services, among other life-saving interventions. Let's talk some more about how sufficient and the aftermath of the floods. We bring in now from our Abuja studio the President and Chief Executive Officer of Security Watch Africa Initiative, Patrick Agbambu. Thanks a lot for joining us. The floods have,
Thank you so much.
wreaked this much havoc in Maiduguri, of course, and this has attracted a lot of aid home and abroad for residents. What are your thoughts? What are the worrying dimensions of this incident for you?
Yeah, so much worries because so much damage have been done, so much lives have been lost. As at now, we can't actually put a figure, an accurate figure to the number of lives that have been lost or damaged because the water is gradually receding and some corpses who were washed away during the flood is still there. So until all this whole thing goes down, then before we can quantify in terms of figure the number of persons that unfortunately have been consumed by that unfortunate flood. Damages, you can't quantify that because so much in terms of infrastructure and materials have been damaged. But as usual, Nigeria, we are moving ahead, which is a very side dimension because this should have stopped. This should not have happened in the first instance, and this we need to do everything to prevent it from happening in that place or other places. That really is where my worry is now.
And, we also need to understand how security comes into, play at this time and how the government can actually collaborate with some security agencies. Because this doesn't seem like one that security men can come into. Am I right?
Yeah, that actually is the part that gladdened my heart because we saw the men of the Nigerian Army and the armed forces under the Operation Hadinkai play leading role. They unfortunately became the first respondent to rescue the situation. The National Emergency Management Agency couldn't do anything. So the security forces led by the Nigerian Army stepped in and they provided the needed rescue operations and carried out search and rescue. They did a lot to be able to save lives. It showed that if we can equip our security services very effectively, then we may be able to have a team that will be help to respond whenever we have a crisis like this.
Right, and another dimension to the floods, when it occurred, devastating proportions as reported. But then there was also the twist that hundreds of inmates, there was a prison break in which hundreds of inmates, were, would I say the floods let them loose or they took advantage, whatever the case may be. But, just a trickle have been brought back to the inmates. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I just got back 2 days ago from Borno State, having visited the whole of the affected areas, even got up to the Alo Dam itself where the main source happened. And part of the places visited was the prison. The fence, the walls got caved in, and some of the lock-up rooms were also affected, and that led to these inmates escaping. But the gladdening thing there is that a large number of them have been rearrested, or some even returned on their own because they didn't get to know what direction to go, and some were still very scared of what the situation is in Borno, whether the terrorists were still operating. A lot of Nigerians have expressed fear that this may have been the prison where some of the suspects of terrorism were held. But I can tell you that no, that prison affected. There's no terrorists were held there. So these are the normal criminals that were brought either from outside the states or some who committed crimes within the states, other crimes within the states. So I think that this incident has actually opened up or reconfirmed the need that our national infrastructures must always be well maintained. That prison had been begging for repairs or total renovation or relocation. Unfortunately, nothing was done, and just this flood actually created more danger because some of these criminals that have escaped will actually become create more problem for the society. But the security forces, the Nigeria police, the Nigerian Correctional Service are making efforts to see how those who escape can be gotten back.
All right, so what's the security implication of this flood, especially when you consider the fact that Borno has been a hotspot in terms of banditry and a level of insecurity in the past years? Does this perhaps make the state porous to an extent?
The management of the situation actually helped to calm the nerves of most people, because the ab initio, the security forces, like I said earlier, led by the Nigerian Army, led by the theater commander himself, because there is Major General Wahidi Shuaibu, led a team to go around from the very first day the situation happened, and other security forces joined hands to provide some peripheral security services. The security men, both within the flood, carried out their responsibility to prevent any untoward actions by criminals who may want to capitalize on the vulnerability of the people. And with the presence of the security men all over, it actually doused the tension. And again, because I must tell you that Borno State, 90% of that state can be said to be safe, because people went about doing their normal activities. There was no problem of any fear that there could be criminals coming in. Even when people were being taken to the IDP camps, some people, I personally was worried that maybe some of these criminals may infiltrate and go in, but only to find out that some measures were being taken, because even in that situation, the people were able to count themselves to know who is strange, who is coming among them. And if they suspect anybody, information will be given out. I must commend the people of Borno State for their resilience. Their governor did excellently well. He didn't just sit back. He gave them hope by moving around and making sure that all that needed to be done in terms of rescue and the stabilization that is ongoing now is properly done. So in terms of security, not much of a threat, but of course you will know that some people may want to capitalize on the situation to start looting. But the security forces also rose up to the situation and arrested some of those.
Right, and we also got a report. It's good that we are speaking with you. You also giving us some more dimensions to how things are and what needs to be done. Having gone to Maiduguri to see things for yourself, but in terms of as government continues to make life as comfortable as possible for the victims, for the survivors, especially those in the IDP camps at the moment. We've also heard about reports of some form of stampede as, some of these relief items are shared. So, to forestall a reoccurrence, we understand about 3 people died or so in one of these camps. To avoid a reoccurrence, do these concerns also fall under the radar of, security agents, in your view?
Not so much under the radar of the security agents because, okay, I can't totally say no because the civil defenders are supposed to be there, and some of them, as we're seeing in some of these IDP camps, trying to control this crowd. The police officers were also seen there. Then the civilian joint task force, we're also there helping to ensure that things were done orderly. But you see, the number of persons that needed some immediate support it was so large, and you can't rule it out because figures were said about slightly over 400,000 persons were displaced. But from what we saw in some of the places visited, there could be more than that because people were just distorted and disturbed, and though some people again insisted that they wouldn't want to go to IDP camps. They would rather stay in their houses in spite of the risk and dangers it portends, only because they don't want to be regarded as IDPs. So they remain there, and again, some relief materials were being extended to them through the Nigerian Army team who weathered the storm and using their boats to go to them and provide some succor to them. So this may not totally be stopped totally. That is in terms of stampedes. We just wish that the people will be more patient. But in this situation, everybody wants to get something because the fear of maybe limited, and so the people are rushing. But I just pray that people will be patient and the security forces will do the needful and make people to understand the situation they are going through to be able to provide that security that they need.
All right, let's put you on hold. We'll take a break and return with more on this conversation. Stay with us. It's still... Thanks a lot for staying with us. It's John TVC Breakfast, and we are still on matters arising from the floods in Maiduguri, Borno State. We still have Patrick Agbambu, who is the president of Security Watch Africa Initiative. Thanks a lot, Mr. Agbambu, for staying on with us. But as part of your visit to see things for yourself, an assessment visit, we can call it that, tell us about your findings regarding Alao Dam, which has been implicated as having collapsed, which brought about this large volume of waters.
Yeah, that's really where I must tell you that I think I would want the present government, the president himself, to personally make sure that those who are charged with the responsibility for things like this do their work. The Federal Ministry of Water Resources needs to make sure that what has to be done must be done. Our dams needs urgent attention because before this dam caved in, before it collapsed, there were signs, and unfortunately, nothing was done because the first flooding of that dam, the first problem that came up from that dam happened on the 4th of September. And the communities and the security, the Nigerian Army battalion that was there raised alarm. The acting GOC in charge of 7th Division there came, they assessed the whole thing. Reports were passed over to the management of the dam, but nothing was done. The people were waiting for these officials to do something urgently. Apart from the Northeast Development Agency, the Child Commission that brought some sandbags to use to prevent it a bit from, nothing was done until the final collapse. And what happened now is danger because it may continue if something is not done urgently, because now Cameroon has warned that they will open some of their dams, and we know that the interlink between these waters and the dam will affect us more if we don't do anything to control what we have within our country. And it's a big problem, and that's more, especially towards the southern part of the country, if nothing is done urgently. I think that government officials who are responsible for any of these things must be questioned on what have they been doing, because I'm sure that some money must have been appropriated to them for so many years and nothing was done until this happened. The state government couldn't do anything because this dam management is under the federal government, and I believe that those agencies concerned and the National Assembly committee that is in charge of oversight must make sure that they bring out their reports and tell Nigerians what is being done about this situation.
And the hope is that we do not go from one situation and find ourselves in another situation. Well, the state government has actually planned to close some of these emergency camps in 2 weeks. But then we know that in the past few years, these IDP camps to an extent have been a bane or a location for recruitment by extremist groups in that region. What should be done in terms of, preventing that form of recruitment or other forms of radicalization?
Yeah, I know that the state government is concerned about how the welfare of their citizens, because most of those people I personally interacted with who are the IDP camps are wishing that they want to return back to their homes. So some of the communities that are already good enough for livelihood, people we're seeing going back there to pick up the pieces of their lives and continue again. And some that are still not very clear in terms of this flooding, still hoping and praying that something will be done very soon so that they can go back. Before this flooding, many of the IDP camps, more than 95% of the IDP camps in Maiduguri had been closed. People were being relocated to their communities until this happened. You can't totally rule away the possibility of recruitment from the IDP camps, because nothing can be done to checkmate that, except the citizens, except what parents and guidance monitor and who interacts with their children. But in terms of security agencies, they have been carrying out some awareness. I know that some leaflets some people were being distributed, some people were being going around talking to the different ward heads to talk to their people that there's no need to go back to the days that were almost gone, and no need to get your children or your child to be recruited into any of these again. That should be sustained, and with the effort that is being done by the state government, because the main reason why people want to follow or join these criminal gangs is because when they feel left out by the government, when they do not feel the impact of government, then they want to look for a way that they will feel much better or more protected. I believe that government must make themselves closer to the people.
Yeah, right. And talking about, that tail end of your speech now, I want us to, try and bring this all home in this final question. What's the sense of appreciation or the level of disconnect between the government and the people? Since you've spoken about, perceived failings on the part of government, now that government is responding to, the needs of the victims, what's the level of connection of the people with the government?
Yeah, I would say that the people of Borno are quite appreciative of what the present government is doing to alleviate their sufferings and get them back to their normal living. And they are appreciative of what the security forces were doing, though they are still a bit skeptical about some government officials because in some places I visited, where some of them were saying they prefer the military to distribute these relief materials and palliatives to them than some of the government officials. Of course, this is expected because after very long years of neglect and disconnect, you expect the people to still be very uncomfortable with some of these people. But generally, these people are very, very appreciative. That actually encouraged me to believe that if government make themselves closer to the people, make themselves available for the people, then Nigerians will rather follow the path of the right path than following criminal gangs.
Patrick Agbambu, we thank you very much for your contributions on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you so much.